Here.
Lynn Ebenkamp.
Here.
Angelina Pride.
Present.
David Malkin.
Present.
All board members are present.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda of the regular board meeting of Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020?
I make a motion. I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
There is an item from staff to bring forward that there's a correction to the learning continuity and attendance plan attachment. So the attachment was replaced with an updated and revised copy. It had typographical changes, but no changes in content.
Okay, any discussion regarding that? Okay, can I have a motion? We'll do roll call with that. Well, I guess I need a motion with that addition to accept the agenda with that.
Motion and second then?
Yes.
I rescind my second.
And can I have a new motion with that addition that Dr. Mitchell mentioned?
I make a motion to accept the agenda with the noted changes by Dr. Mitchell.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? We'll do roll call. Ms. Freedman?
Aye.
Mr. Chen?
Aye.
Ms. Ebenkamp?
Yes.
Ms. Pride?
Aye.
And it's aye for me. The motion carries unanimously. Tonight, Mr. Kerry Chen has the honor of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Chen?
Please rise. Put your hand over your heart. Ready? Go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. Next is the superintendent's report. Dr. Mitchell?
Thank you very much. So as a district and a community, we have been navigating COVID for just a few days over 6 months, and all of us are doing our best to serve our students, our colleagues, and community with the many new experiences we are all facing. I'm immensely proud of the work that the entire staff in the Roland Unified School District is doing. I've had the opportunity to visit virtual classrooms, participate in parent information nights, back to school nights, training sessions, and more. Everyone is working extremely hard, our parents and students included, to make the most of this challenging situation. I'm also pleased today to share that we started our live instruction for both music and PE at the elementary level. Our music and PE teachers have prepared weekly recorded lessons for our students to participate in anytime during the week. As a district, we're proud of our Music for All program, and our elementary music teachers have been extremely creative in how they can continue this tradition in offering music instruction to our students in grades 1 through 6. Music schedules for live online instruction varies by school site. PE lessons are offered every Wednesday through live online instruction for all elementary students. Information about the specific schedule for all of our elementary schools is available from the school or the teacher. Also wanted to remind everyone that Friday is a district-wide learning day for our staff, and it is a no school day for our students. Thank you all for your continued support, and if we can assist our community, parents, students, or staff in any way, please let us know. Our school offices and our district offices are open for phone and email to help, again, in any way we can. Thank you.
Mute, David, unmute.
There you go. That's better. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell, for the report. Do we have any public comments in section 4 for public comments for this evening?
I guess we do have some public speakers.
Before we get into the public speakers, let me just read this one little paragraph here. Please note that the public is welcome to provide comment to the board. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes, unless extended or limited by vote of the board. A maximum of 20 minutes, unless extended by the board, is allocated for each subject discussed. The Brown Act open meeting regulations under which the board must operate do not allow board members to comment on non-agenda items or information you might bring up that are not on the agenda. Additionally, no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to staff following a comment. Ms. Ward, do you want to call the first one?
Yes, for tonight, we have the first speaker is Mr. William Harrison. Mr. Harrison, you're good to go.
So, Mr. Harrison, we cannot hear you at this time. I see that you are muted on your side. If you can unmute from your device or from your telephone.
Mr. Harrison, can you unmute, please?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Harrison. We can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm speaking on behalf of Proposition 15, which I think should be a no vote. The taxpayers have given money to our school districts, not just rolling, in the way of federal monies, state monies. What happened to the lottery money? And we have a $50 million reserve. I think that's enough money. When you look at our schools and we see that we constantly underperform, there is no silver money bullet to bring us out of the doldrums that we're in. We need to make sure our kids are being educated, but at the same time, we need to put a limit on the burden of taxpayers. That's what's happening. You're constantly putting this burden on taxpayers. So my suggestion is a no vote on Prop 15. Let's get into another issue that's dear to me, and that is the lack of blacks within the staff at Rolling Unified School Districts. I'm sure the board knows that you have no black principals, you have one vice principal throughout the district, you have 17 black teachers, you have 4 administrative staff personnel, you have 4 clerical, 3 maintenance, and 1 librarian. It bothers me that we don't have a solution for this. Why do I constantly go to schools and I see no one that looks like me in administrative positions? I look at the board and I say, when you go to these open houses, back to school, visit schools, which you do often, you see no one that looks like me. You see no one black. Doesn't that ring a bell with you? Something is wrong here? Superintendent, which I have a lot of respect for, when you have your principal meetings every week, no one in the room is black. That should be an alarm that sounds violently. Now, I talked with Mr. Bexler, who I think is an outstanding person, and he's trying very hard to bring African Americans in. I sat with the superintendent, Mrs. Pride, and Mr. Malkin, and I suggested, why don't we recruit? Mrs. Pride jumped up and hollered, that's race hiring. What in the hell is race hiring? There's no such thing as race hiring. And as the board looks at themselves in the mirror and says, how do I let this happen? How am I a member of the board of schools that have absolutely nobody black in the whole damn school? We don't look like a school in Los Angeles, California, or Golden Heights, California. We look like Birmingham, Alabama. We've actually been able to move our schools back to the antebellum South. We're back in the 1920s. So I'm hoping that someone will meet with me and have a real solution for ending this systemic racism within Rolling Unified School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Dr. Mitchell, could you please send those statistics that he mentioned to the board members and then just verify the statistics?
Certainly.
Yes, our next speaker is Lita Hernandez. Ms. Hernandez, you should be good to go to unmute.
Do you guys hear me?
Yes, Lita, go ahead.
Okay, thanks guys. Hello everyone. I am Lita Hernandez. I am the first vice president for CSEA as well as the office manager for Jellic Elementary School. And today what I wanted to do is share with each of you a portion of our CSEA newsletter, which is our Get to Know section. And today I'm going to be featuring the amazing warehouse team, which includes Daniel Meneses, Rigo Jacobo, Mario Flores, and Zach Goddard. Determination, strive, strength, and dedication are just a few of the many words that describe the amazing team that run our school district's warehouse. Despite the pandemic and the stay-at-home order, these 4 gentlemen worked tirelessly throughout the summer in over 100-degree heat to ensure that our school district received warehouse and mail services. This team receives, stores, and distributes thousands of orders of supplies, technology, and equipment for our schools and departments each year. They take turn delivering mail throughout the district and do so with a smile and, if you're lucky, a short dance and song. The beginning and end of the school year is always very busy for this team, and this year was even more insane than usual. Thanks to the warehouse's deliveries, school sites were able to give a goodie bag of new supplies and workbooks out to students this year. They helped deliver musical instruments to the RIC so that they can be passed out to our young instrumentalists. If a school site or department needs to check on the status of an order, they know they can count on Daniel and the team to check on the order and get back to them. Need to order a warehouse supply item from their stock and get it right away? Just let them know when you're coming by and they will have it ready. These are some of the many examples of what the warehouse does for our district. Their overwhelming customer service skills and can-do attitudes ensure that school sites and departments get the help they need throughout the year, and CSEA is so very grateful for all that they do each and every day. Thank you, warehouse team. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez, and all classified employees that is the backbone to our district. Next one, Ms. Ward.
Yes, hello. For our next speaker, it's Mr. Roy Humphreys.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I see
Go ahead.
some nods there. Okay, thank you for all the good things you do, and a special note that all potential write-in candidates for the November election in Trustee Area 4, now held by Board Member David Malkin, have until October 20 to file their application. Next, we have the district is in dire need of a property change that has been evidenced by the de facto segregation of the North by the Superintendent and Board, the continued three-monkey syndrome of Miss Pride, and the inability of Miss Ebenkamp to understand the impact of culture. The denial of negative as a natural occurrence in the human experience is evidenced by Miss Ebenkamp and Mr. Flores last meeting. We have special circumstances, as noted by Mr. Malcolm in this posting, in his posting on the Roland Heights Buzz. When noting to him the district's and his failings of duty and responsibility to all constituents of the district, he responded to me with a list, and this is on the Buzz, of charitable activities that he had done on the north side, followed by a question to me, what have you done for the north side lately? I noted to him to stay on topic. Further, Mr. Malcolm, I live on the south side. I am an at-large citizen who has no duty or responsibility to do anything for the north side, unlike you as an elected official. Further, you have continued to fail your duties and responsibilities to the trustee area for constituents. You have a special relationship to those people. The positive cultural change in the leadership of Roland Unified School District cannot happen soon enough. The students' content of character will be tested in the years to come as a result of the COVID situation. And as a comment on the Proposition 15, that's a big NO. Money will not cure the problems, and that's been proven over year. So we'll put a big NO on that one, and thank you very much.
Thank you,
Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell, would you please get from Mr. Humphreys the negative comments he said about board members so we can look into what it was? I didn't have a good understanding.
Yes, no problem.
Okay, our next speaker we are looking for, they filled out a card and the Google form, Elizabeth Cuevas. We're looking and we do not see her logged in at this time. Ms. Cuevas, if you are under another name, could you raise your hand right now just so we can go ahead and unmute you? Again, Ms. Elizabeth Cuevas. We're going to come back. We'll go ahead and go with two more, an additional person, and then we'll come back one more time. Let's see if Ms. Cuevas logs in. The next person is Amy Urbien.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Good evening, President Malkin, School Board, Dr. Michelle, and Cabinet. On the board agenda, I see the discussion for Prop 15. I am very happy that it's made it to the agenda finally and hope that there will be a vote in the near future to endorse and help educators across the state to pass it. For the past month, AR members have been volunteering their time to hold meetings and phone bank to talk about the importance of passing it. More than 50% of our members support Prop 15 since it will bring in ongoing additional funding of $9.6 million. This country is in a recession and will not be able to generate the state will not be able to generate the revenue needed to provide the needed funding for our schools. Corporations are still profiting and they need to start paying their fair share in their property taxes, taking that burden off the homeowners. In the short run, to reopen schools safely, we're going to need proper PPE and purchase safety items. We should hire more nurses and counselors so that we take care of the needs of our students and staff as we continue to navigate through this pandemic. In the long run, our students are going to have learning loss. We must address this by creating programs and paying teachers to work with our students after school and not for free so that we can address the deficiencies. Many of our showcase programs, such as our music programs, performing and visual arts, and athletics, to name a few, will also struggle in the next few years because they haven't had a chance to do their annual fundraisers, which they depend on to keep their programs going. Also, RUSD is now a one-to-one district with the devices that they've provided this year. Those devices aren't going to last forever, and they need to be replaced and maintained as needed. So that additional funding is going to help to upgrade our technology and keep it all updated. With your discussion and hopefully support of Prop 15, ARE looks forward to working with the district to get the $9.6 million that RUSD needs desperately to maintain and support student learning and progress. If you are open to phone banking, I will be more than happy to give you dates where you can join educators across the state to support schools and communities first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Urbien.
All right, we're going to make just one more announcement again for if Miss Elizabeth Cuevas is available. Would her raise her hand? If not, then all of our speakers are done right now.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ward. We'll now move on to discussion items. The first discussion item on the agenda is 5A. This was presented at our last meeting. It's the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, also known as LCAP previously, 2020-2021. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the Rolling Unified School District LCAP for the 2020-2021 school year?
I'll move.
Second.
Are there any questions or discussions? Thank you, so be it. We'll now take roll call. Ms. Freedman?
Aye.
Mr. Chen?
Aye.
Ms. Ebenkamp?
Yes.
Ms. Pride?
Aye.
And it's aye for me also. So the motion carries unanimously. Item 5B is the second reading and the approval of the revised Rolling Unified School District Board Policy Manual. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the revised Rolling Unified School District Board Policy and Manual?
I'll move.
Second.
With the first and second, any discussion or questions? Ms. Freedman?
Just a comment, thank you again, everybody, for all their input on this. I know it was a lot of work, lots of pages, and it looks really good.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that this is something that's been discussed and been reviewed by a lot of the board members and other people in previous weeks.
And actually, the board would like to give Donna Freedman and David Malkin a thank you for the work they spent on it too. I know they went through it item by item to make sure everything was acceptable for them. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your hard work.
Okay, any other discussions or compliments? I'll take additional compliments. Okay, if there's no more discussion or questions, we'll do roll call. Ms. Freedman?
Aye.
Mr. Chen?
Aye.
Ms. Ebenkamp?
Yes.
Ms. Pride?
Aye.
And it's aye from me, so the motion carries unanimously. We now do the textbook adoption, accounting, and computer applications, grades 9 through 12. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt the Paradigm Educational Solutions and what's that? Cengage? Learning textbooks for students in grades 9 through 12 for 2020 and 2021 school year.
I'll move.
A second.
We have a first and a second. Discussions, questions? Ms. Freedman?
Yes, at the last board meeting, I mentioned what a great job Rocky, Dan, and Carolyn did. So I took notes and want to share what I learned. At the accounting textbook, Century 21 is the beginning class for accounting, and the advanced accounting textbook, Century 21. This gets into managerial, which helps with the FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America competitions. Students were saying there were many questions about that, and the other textbook didn't cover that. The computer applications textbooks, they were very thick. And the Microsoft Word 3652019, this has more lectures and tutorials for students. Excellent for senior seminar students, virtual internships, virtual connections to the future, computer application, PowerPoints, major turnaround online edition. Last books were 2012 and 2015. Nothing will be lost by switching 2 months into the school year. The computer applications textbooks, Office 2019, is to articulate with Mount FAC, not in Chromebooks. They're using Cirrus platform. The textbook Office gives better access for students. You don't need Office at home for the virtual setting. It was last used in 2016, got upgraded, online platform, don't need to be on the device to interact. Video support, not in Zoom or Classroom. Support on their own. It has an assessment feature online with immediate feedback. They're separate online, more written exams in digital format for CTE teachers. 4 years ago, Nogales received computers to be compatible with the software. Also at this time, purchased licenses, 225 textbooks with license, bought enough class sets for 5 sections. At home textbook and in classroom textbook. Grant was used to pay for these, incentive money to supplement and enhance. Last time, 2012 and 2009, 2010, 8 to 12 years old. Things have changed like the content. Lastly, now there is alignment with Nogales High School. Never was aligned before. Now both high schools will be using the same textbooks.
Very comprehensive notes. Any other questions or discussions?
Yes, I have one. I have a question for Judy or Maddie. Before pandemic, every time we review the textbook, we to the boardroom, but now we do it online. But either way, we don't. I see only board members come review the books. I don't see any community there, and I believe that's open to community members. I think because of the time, or maybe the time is during the working hours, so the community members not able to come to the boardroom or get online to review the textbooks. Are they available for off hour if the community members make the request? Are they available if they want to see it or review it after hours?
Yes, if a community member wanted to see a textbook and was not able to attend, yes, they can. I think it's also to come, they can ask to come at a different time prior to board action or even after. The other thing I think it's important to note is that the books that are often, the books that we are moving to adopt are being piloted. And this is a slightly different situation, but you referenced in general. So a lot of times our students are already using these books and parents are able to see these books when their students are bringing them home to do work through a pilot process. So there are other opportunities where parents maybe have had access to the books as well.
Yeah, in some cases, the books are new books or the new courses. the first time we using the book, and I think that's more important to make an announcement for the community to know what version or what type of edition of the books we are using. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. Any other questions?
I have a question. Dr. Mitchell, do you think it would be of any benefit, since some of these programs have to do with careers, that we invite some of our intern companies that are working with our students to see what books they're using?
Get input from the business sector, is that what you're referencing?
Pride?
Aye.
That's aye for me, so the motion carries unanimously. We now go to item 6D, Proposition 15, which increases funding sources for public schools, community colleges, and local government services by changing tax assessment of commercial and industrial property. Initiative constitutional, it's an initiative constitutional amendment. The board is asked to discuss and provide direction to the staff regarding any desired action pertaining to Proposition 15. Proposition 15 is a statewide ballot measure, also referred to as both the Schools and Committees First Initiative and the Split Roll Initiative, that seeks to make changes to some provisions of the California landmark 1978 property tax limitations, zoned as commercial agriculture, to be taxed based on their current market value. The current property tax base for small businesses and residential properties are not impacted by Proposition 15. We are open now for discussion as to giving direction to staff. This is not a discussion on whether we support or we don't support Proposition 15. It's a discussion to give direction to staff as how we should proceed. Ms. Freedman?
Can I just ask Dr. Mitchell, how will it affect the district if it does pass? What will we, do you have an idea?
Certainly. So in reading the voter information on a variety of different sources and so forth, should Proposition 15 pass, it does require that additional monetary resources be provided to the school district in the state of California. There is, when they look at the division of dollars that would be gained from this, I know that earlier a speaker had said it would be up to like $9.5 million. There is also in the measure, there is also a minimum because it is for schools and for communities. So the measure does provide dollars to local governments and communities in addition to schools. But one of the things that is written in there, so Ms. Freedman, you've asked what's the impact to the school. We don't know exactly what the impact is, but there is specific language written that says that it's a minimum of $100 per student to local school districts. So at a minimum, if this measure were to pass, it would provide the Roland Unified School District $1.2 to $1.3 million. And I know there are many other figures. I'm just sharing because you've heard the $9 million one, but we're not exactly sure. But there is language to protect at a minimum base, which is helpful to have. I don't know if I quite answered your question.
Oh, you definitely did. Thank you very much.
Can I give you some feedback from constituents in the community? I don't want it to be political, but the seniors in the community are very concerned about this may erode their Prop 13 residential fees, because what was explained to me was that even though this is a property tax on the businesses and commercial side, your markets, your theaters, everybody has to charge for those services, and they're going to charge the consumer. We just passed a refund to some of our taxpayers last week, and then if we stand up for this, it's going to be costing them money down the road. So it's different. It's difficult to say whether it would be the best thing or not.
Ms. Pride?
Yes. This week, as part of my job in my other life, I was sitting in on an economic development call, and there was a concern about Prop 15. Companies stating that they're already hurting because of the COVID situation and the loss of earnings in business during this period, and that Prop 15 would further impact them in that may lead to them not being able to bring in some employees back to work or them having to shut down completely. So it's a very hard decision. There's lots of uncertainty on both sides, the pro and the con side. And I think we just really need to look at the big picture as we move forward.
Ms. Freedman?
Maybe I read it wrong, but I read that it's only going to have businesses that make $3 million or more.
The workforce economic development, we have members, company corporations that participate in those meetings who are very, very large, well-known companies, as well as small businesses and everything in between.
But did I read somewhere that it's companies that only have $3 million, they make $3 million or more, that would be property taxes would go up?
Right.
Okay.
But what I have a question about is if somebody has a big shopping center that is above that amount, and they have several small shops within that center who lease from them, they're going to have to pay their share of the taxes, and they're going to pass it on to the consumers.
The $3 million, the value of the property, am I right? So if the $3 million value of the property does affect a lot of the shopping centers, the most shopping center value is higher than $3 million.
You know, there's discussion as to the benefits as far as the money it would bring in. I'm wondering also, we have a lot of programs where we partner with our local businesses for internships, and at the end of the year, a lot of these businesses provide scholarships to our students. And as a board that represents the district, if we take action as a board, this can have a negative impact as to the availability in the community of these businesses providing internships and scholarships to our students. So it might bring money in, but we might lose opportunities and scholarships on the other side. What I'm thinking is that, you know, one of our speakers, Ms. Urbien, mentioned that they're working very hard to get the proposition approved. And we as individual board members can do what we feel is best as individuals. And if we wanted to work with ARE and work their phone banks, we can do that as individuals. I think that would be actually more valuable in a way than us taking a resolution. I really don't know if a resolution by the board would really benefit as much as if we as individuals would do what we feel is best. If we don't support it, then we don't volunteer, or we volunteer for another group. If we support it, then we volunteer with ARE, we do phone banking. So I think this would really be best handled individually rather than as a group process, such as a resolution.
Yeah, I don't think the board should take a position of this issue, because this is statewide issue, and I'd like to see more funding to the district, but the funding, if it is under our control, like a bond money, and we pass the bond money 3 times, and those are our money, and then we can tax our the taxpayers in our district, and we use it in our district, and that's wonderful. That's good. But this Proposition 15, the tax money is for statewide, and we have no direct control to the how we use the money. So I think this issue better decided by the voters. As Mr. Malkin says, we don't take the board don't take the position for this, and if the individual board member wants to help or to oppose, and that's the freedom of each individual board members, but not the whole board.
Yeah, as we heard in the public comments, there's disagreement just among the three people that spoke. So we had disagreement amongst them. The other thing is, Mr. Chen mentioned the bond. The bond that we vote for, or as well as the Mount SAC bond that we voted for, that we did support. There's a big difference between supporting a bond measure versus supporting a measure that changes legislation. A bond is not legislation. This is legislation. So it's a big difference between the two. So I don't think you can compare supporting a bond versus supporting a change in legislation, which, like Mr. Chen said, is more political.
Actually, I have a question, Dr. Mitchell. In my research, I didn't see that anywhere on the ballot measure it mentioned Prop 13 or split roll. It just called it a tax on commercial industrial properties for education and local government funding initiative. So sometimes those measures, the way they're worded, are confusing to the constituents. And I think I did a lot of research just to understand it, because it's more complicated than it looks. If you read what I did, we don't get our money right off the top. It goes to the state first, and then the county, local cities, and then the schools next.
Yes, there is, yes, and I'm not sure, Mrs. Ebenkamp, if that's the exact order of it, and that's why it was important when Ms. Freedman had asked the question. I think it's important to note that there is a minimum, so schools will get funding from this, that there's the minimum piece that's written in there, that a minimum of $100 per pupil will be given to local school districts. And then I know there are many other figures depending on how it ends up, but schools were specifically noted to make sure that they were not excluded completely.
Would that be $100 per student for the year?
Correct.
Which is 15,000 as opposed to several million? Is that...
No, it's 1.2 to 1.3 million for our school district.
Okay.
So for our school district, that would be the minimum. And then it is a 60-40 split in terms of the way that the bill is set up, with looking at 60% for local government and 40% into schools. I'm sorry, I don't have all of the details.
No, that's
there.
Okay.
But it is, but you are correct. There is a hierarchy in terms of how the dollars that would be raised from Proposition 15. There's a hierarchy of how those dollars are spent. But there is the possibility of upwards of $9 million for our school district, but there is also a floor as a minimum. So I think it's important to note that we would not be excluded entirely.
Did you see any wording that said how we would need to spend the money? Is it up to the discretion of the school district?
There was not specifics within this ballot measure of how it would be spent. There is specific language when this was developed that this would be in addition to our Prop 98 dollars. So often when there's new dollars coming to a school district, it's sometimes concerning because there's a little switcheroo that happens sometimes, and the state may take away money and replace with new money.
Like the lottery.
Yeah, this particular initiative has language specific in it that it would be over and above the Prop 98 funding that is already afforded to school districts.
Yeah. I misunderstood the minimum per student, so thank you for clarifying.
Ms. Ebenkamp mentioned the lottery money. I remember many years ago when that was on the ballot, and all the school districts were going to get rich with all this money from the lottery. And it turned out that it just trickled in. To this day, it just trickles in. So sometimes what we assume we're going to get is not equal to what we actually get in reality. And the other thing I want to mention is that being a senior myself and being a member of a senior group, I do hear concerns about their limited budget they have and how they have trouble making ends meet now, and they're concerned that this opens the door for future legislation that can change their tax assessments for homes that most of them have already paid for. And they're able to make ends meet because their homes are paid for and have a very limited budget, but the property tax is low. And if they were being reassessed at today's current value, it would be a tremendous hit on our seniors. So there's a lot of concern and worry that this is just the first step to eventually eliminating Prop 13 for residential also.
So in terms of direction for staff, I'm not hearing any action for staff to take. Is that accurate?
Well, I would recommend that we as individuals do what we feel is best, that meets our beliefs and what we want to support, and we take our initiative to help out those that are on each side, depending on which side you want to be on, and we do it as individual board members, rather than doing it as a board unified together.
I agree.
I agree too. Actually, just
I concur.
Me too.
Okay, so the direction we're giving Dr. Mitchell and the cabinet is that we as board members will reach out and do what we feel is best for our beliefs and give of ourselves, regardless of which side we're on. Okay, thank you. We'll now go to the consent calendar. Next is the consent calendar. We'll approve all of the items in consent with the exception of any items that were pulled for separate discussion and action, which none were pulled. Can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Ms. Freedman?
Aye.
Mr. Chen?
aye.
Ms. Ebenkamp?
Yes.
Ms. Pride?
Aye.
Aye for me, so the motion for the consent calendar is approved unanimously. Next, we will go to item 7A, which is board comments. We'll receive comments from the board. And this evening, we'll start off with Ms. Freedman first.
Yay, okay. I had the opportunity to sign into 8 ESL classes through RACE. I zoomed through these classes, Rocky's words, that stayed with me. It was wonderful. I wish more of our community would sign up for these outstanding classes. RACE offers introductory ESL, beginning low ESL, intermediate ESL, multi-level ESL, beginning ESL, and ESL literacy and advanced ESL. I would like to mention the teachers' names: Janet, Melissa, Kristen, Natalia, Carmen, and Nancy. They had well-prepared lessons, and the adults and students were very engaged. It wasn't the same as being in the classroom, but the flexibility of being able to go to all the classes at different times was great. These classes started at 8, 8:30, and 12 o'clock. As I zoomed in the classes, I observed videos, played songs where the adults were singing along. Students put in groups of 2 and 3 flashcards that students also had with a list of words, lots of role modeling, repetition, information about the upcoming test, etc. Very impressive. I now know what a breakout room is. Also, 2 teachers talked to me before class started and shared that they had a staff meeting on Friday, and then on Saturday they had another meeting about Zoom. The teachers shared what they knew about Zoom with their peers. Wow, that is so terrific. Rocky and Gail, thank you so much for setting this up for me. It couldn't have been easier. Rowan High School did excellent on the latest advanced placement test. Overall passing rate was 78% with 1,122 exams administered, which is an increase in the passing rate of almost 2% from the previous year. Also, Rowan High School had 84% of the students pass at least one exam with a score of 3 or better, which is an increase of 7% from the previous school year. Mitch shared that information. And then Andreas shared the information about Nogales High School, and this is her words, is an approved National Health Career Association testing site, allowing Nogales High School students in the medical assisting program to take the certified clinical medical assistance. These certifications are standardized, widely accepted, symbols of achievement for health science students who want to start a career in specialized part healthcare. And then lastly, today I attended the Hurley Awards Assembly. Dr. Alvarez, principal of Hurley Elementary, gave out several awards today virtually on Zoom. Each student received a certificate and ribbon for Hurley Hawk Award, Writers Award, Readers Award, Mathematics Award, and a new category, Virtual Engagement. The Virtual Engagement Award was earned by being on time and doing all their work. After Dr. Alvarez announced the students' names and showed their certificates on the camera during the Zoom meeting, confetti was thrown everywhere. All participants, it was so cute. All participants were clapping, including myself. There were many teachers present cheering when students' names were announced. One parent interrupted the meeting and asked Dr. Alvarez if she could repeat what her daughter got an award for because she was at work and couldn't attend when it started. Her daughter said, "Mom," and so excited. She was so excited to see her mom. Then Dr. Alvarez announced what she got the award in. I saw parents sitting with their children during the Zoom meeting. The students seemed to be very excited. There were 95 participants in the Zoom meeting for Hurley Awards. It was so enjoyable to watch. Outstanding job. At the end, Dr. Alvarez said there will be another awards assembly virtually next month and that she was super proud of everyone. And I just want to say have a happy fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Freedman. Mr. Chen?
After last board meeting, I attended two public meetings representing the board. I attended RHCCC meeting and made a short report on our RHCCC meeting. And another meeting on behalf of the board, I attended the IQ Academy board meeting, and that was a short meeting. Only one item they voted and that passed was they approved the LCAP, and that's it. So I attend two meetings representing the board. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Ebenkamp?
Yes, my report will be short. I want to thank the teachers who have taken the issue of Prop 15 under their wings, and I know they got a lot of signatures to make sure it got on the ballot, and it is on the ballot, and they're working hard to get it passed. Sometimes it's hard to be a board member because we have to have the whole picture. We can't just think, oh, it's money for our kids. We also have the community to think of. As David and I mentioned, a lot of seniors will be impacted with this greatly. And most residents who will see that they will have to pay more for their goods and services are concerned about it. But, I don't know the answer. I feel bad that it's coming up this year, which is probably the worst year of all that could come up, because a lot of people have worked hard. And with the economy, what it is in our state, they need the money. But if we don't have the people in the businesses to be able to bring the money in, that'll be a problem too. So I think that the idea of having each person take the responsibility to help where they can is probably the best idea. I have not visited a virtual classroom yet, but hearing Donna's report, I'm going to start next week. So thank you.
Ms. Pride?
Good evening. I would like to thank Ms. Hernandez for coming in and giving such a nice shout out to the warehouse staff. And I thought that was very nice, and I really appreciated it. I'm sure that they really appreciated it too. So thank you for doing that. I also want to thank Ms. Urbien for her passionate words in support of Prop 15. And then finally, I just want to address two things that were said during the public comments. We have a community member who comes in here week after week and refers to the north side of our district as the ghetto, and that everyone who lives there is ghetto, and everyone who lives over there has a ghetto mentality, and that they don't know how to vote, and they don't know how to advocate for themselves, and all this other nonsense that's not true. But then he turns around and says, when asked, what have you done to help? He says, that's not my neighborhood, and puts his head in the sand like an ostrich. Well, to that community member, I would just like to say, if you're not helping to make it right, then stop complaining about it being wrong. And one other thing I would like to say is that in that Facebook post where Mr. Malkin indicated the things that he and his wife have done, not just for the north side of our district, but for the entire district, this community member failed to mention the very anti-Semitic comment that he made in reference to Mr. Malkin and his wife. And I'm not sure if it's still there, but if it is, you can go back and read it for yourself. The other statement that I would like to correct that was made by a community member was that they had a meeting with myself and others, and this meeting did take place, and that during that meeting that I jumped up and said that I would not participate in race hiring. I did not say that because I don't even know that race hiring is a thing. What I did say when allowed to speak was that I would never support hiring a lesser qualified candidate over another based upon their race or anything else, not their religion, nothing. I want the best qualified educators and staff for Rolling Unified. The race of that person does not matter. We want the best educators, custodians, office managers, etc. Race should not play a role when we are hiring for the people to take care of and educate our students, take care of our schools, be there in support of our teachers. We want the best, and I stand by that. Race should not have a factor. I would also recommend to the community member that if they go and take some time to read some of the most recent literature and articles that have been put out about Black educators, number one, they will see that there has been a decline. It is starting to come back a little bit, but there still is a very low number of Blacks who are going into the education field. And for majority of the ones who are going into the education field, they are going to teach in districts where, guess what? The students look like them. They want to give back to people who look like them and inspire people who look like them. In Rowland Heights, as it has been indicated, as you can see on our websites, when you look at our demographics and talking about Black educators and Black students, they're not going to see that many of them that look like them in our district. So if they choose to work in a district where the students look like them, Rowland Unified will be at the bottom of their list, but not because we are not a solid performing district and that we have a good district that people want to work in, but just because they choose to give back to the students who look like them. So with that said, I'm going to stop and wish all of you guys a great week.
Thank you, Ms. Pride. I got to first start off with my hello here. I hope you can see it.
Oh, I should have brought one.
Yeah, Donna did hers. He's fading out with the background. Anyways, Donna colored hers and I colored mine, and I think it's a great idea. I want to support also what Ms. Ebenkamp said. I'm in a difficult situation that I'm on the board of directors for the San Gabriel Valley Regional Chamber of Commerce. And we've been having meetings recently because we don't have our farmers market. We're hurting with our revenue. And we're seeing a lot of people that have cottage industries that are either operating out of their home or out of industrial kitchens that are basically having to give up their business that they worked so hard to do because they either can't use the kitchens anymore or they can't sell the items that we're selling at the current time. And it really, at first, I had a different view on Prop 15, but the more I hear from the small businesses who aren't, quote, impacted, I'm finding out they are impacted by this. So I haven't decided, but I tell you, as I get more and more information, it makes me think more and more about it. The other thing, the one community member that did speak and gave a little sermon about myself, I find that I don't respond to him on the internet anymore because when I respond, it just feeds fuel to the fire. But one person in the community did, and they got tired of him calling Roland Heights the ghetto. And they said, if you don't like it here, you can get up and move. And I would say, I would take up a collection to hire a moving van to move him. So just let me know when he wants to move, and I'll go to a GoFundMe page and see if we can get a lot of money raised to pay for the moving van and movers to help you move out of Roland Heights. If you think it's a ghetto and you don't want to live here, I'll be more than happy to help you. On another note, September 30th is an important date. It's census, a little thing here I'd like to read. It's how the census benefits your community. Federal funds and grants that support states, counties, and communities are based on population totals and breakdowns by sex, age, race, and other factors. Your community benefits most when the census counts everyone. When you respond to the census, you help the community get its fair share of more than $675 billion, that's with a B, per year in federal funds spent on schools, hospitals, roads, public works, and other vital programs for the next decade. It's only done every 10 years. Businesses use census data to decide where to build factories, offices, stores that create jobs in our community. Developers use it to build new homes and to revitalize old neighborhoods, maybe even revitalize a ghetto even. Local governments use the census for public safety and emergency preparedness. Residents use the census to support community initiatives involving legislation, quality of life, and consumer advocacy. Census data impacts everything from redistricting to the number of congressional seats your state receives to the billions of dollars that need to be allocated to over 100 federal programs serving our community as well as others. These programs include mental health services, school lunch programs, Head Start programs, highway construction, and Pell Grants, federal Pell Grants. It's crucial that the 2020 census count is as accurate as possible. An accurate census count helps to ensure communities across the county are proportionally represented in Congress and that they have access to necessary funds for services in the community like those previously mentioned. The results of the 2020 census will help determine how hundreds of billions of federal funds flow into our community as well as others. Complete your census today, regardless of your legal status in the county before September 30th. And again, I want to repeat that. It's completed regardless of your legal status. Anybody can complete the census, and everybody is encouraged to complete it. And with that, I have nothing else. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
I'll move.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Ms. Freedman?
Aye.
Mr. Chen?
Aye.
Ms. Ebenkamp?
Yes.
Ms. Pride?
Aye.
Ms. Aye for me. I will adjourn the meeting at 7:01. Meeting is adjourned.
Great job, David.
Have a good one, everybody.